Thank you for visiting my crooked little house. My name is Sashka. I'm also known as Sashka Knits on Ravelry and Twitter. So please come and visit me there. I'm going to be starting my own little group called the Crooked Little House, so please feel free to join us there and we can talk about episodes, and maybe we'll have some knit-alongs and some discussions. So this is episode 1, and thank you so much for joining me. Just tell you a little bit about myself. I've been knitting for as long as I can remember and doing other fibery, lovey stuff. I think as long as I can remember, everyone in my house has been doing crafty things. My mom sewed all her own clothes as long as I can remember. My daughter crochets, my son is a weaver. So I knit, I spin, I design, I'm a technical editor. I also have a full-time job, which I do just so I can afford to do all the other stuff that I love. And I love talking to other knitters. I think knitters and quilters and sewers and people who do crafts are the best people in the whole world. I think that we are just so awesome. We're so generous and we have so many wonderful things in common. I didn't actually know people did podcasts or video podcasts until I started watching Jolie's podcast, Jolie's Kitchen. I was taking my technical editing course and she started hers, and I started watching it, and I just really loved seeing what she was doing and hearing about all the stuff that was going on in her life. And I really looked forward to watching all of the episodes that were coming up with her. And when a new one came, I would get my cup of coffee and my knitting, and I would get really excited and I would watch it. And I didn't even know other people were doing it. So then when Ruth from Rock and Pearl started doing hers, I started watching that one too. And then I sort of clued in that maybe other people were doing this, and then the next thing I knew, I was absolutely addicted. So I live in a remote area, but it's not really remote. It's in the middle of nowhere in northern BC, central northern BC. Technically, we're not the middle of nowhere. Technically, we're about 85 kilometers northeast of the middle of nowhere, which is actually Vanderhoof, BC. But I do know a couple of knitters in real life, and we love to get together and show off our yarn and our knitting things. But I am really enjoying the podcast and looking at everybody's projects, and especially the yarn, and just hearing what's going on in their lives. I've been hearing a lot of things about camping and apple picking and yarn festivals, and so I thought I would really like to share some of the things that I've been doing, which is why I've decided to start doing my own podcast. So I'm really hoping that maybe some people will be interested in seeing what I'm doing. And so anyway, this is me, and this is my little podcast, and maybe in a future episode I'll tell you about my crooked little house, because that's an interesting story on its own. Sorry, that's my phone. Just hang on a sec. Okay, so finished objects. I do have some finished objects, and these are actually because of Jolie's podcast. Jolie started a stuffy knit-along in her group, and she's been showing off a lot of toys, and this is my first little toy. This is Rolly, and the designer is Susan Claudino, and I actually got to enter this in the other knit along in Susan Claudino's group, which is finished right now as well. But Jolie's knit along in her group, which is Jolie's Kitchen, is going on until the end of September. So I love this pattern. I knit this out of sock yarn, which I held double. So this stripy sock yarn here is Opal Little Prince, and the solid color sock yarn is Osterman Step Classic. And I knit it on US 4s, 3.5 or 3 millimeters. What I really liked about this pattern is that the arms and legs are knit separate, and you hold them, you knit them, and then you hold them separately on needles, and then they're knit into the body. So you don't sew them on afterwards, like they're knit on there, and you're never going to get them off. They're going to stay there. So it was really, really well written, and I loved knitting this. I could not put this down. This was the first toy I've ever knit, and everybody is getting toys for Christmas this year. So what I did when I got to his face here, I actually came up to another pink section. So I just took that out. I skipped that in the yarn because I knew I was putting pink here on his face, and I didn't want like pink behind his face here where his little mouth was going to be. His ears and his tentacles and his little tail are added on separately, and I knew this wasn't going to a child, so I didn't use safety eyes. I just sewed little button eyes on, and I love him. So here's my little Rolly. And I would definitely make more of Susan Claudino's patterns, and so you can check him out on my Ravelry page. So I think if a certain family member is watching this, they will know who this is for. But yeah, toys for everyone for Christmas. So another finished object is this little chicken. He's actually Chicken. Patterns by Emily Ivy. Another pattern that I bought off Ravelry. Sorry. Again, apparently my phone bill is ready. So this one is all. I also made this for Jolie's knit along. So here's a little close up of him. Here's his. I really like his tail feathers. So there's his little tail feathers. So I use the same needles, the US 4 3 millimeter needles. I think the US 4 part may be wrong, but the 3 millimeter needles is right. I used millimeters here. And for his body, I used, if I say this wrong, I'm totally not trying to offend, I think it's German, Hirtgarn Safari. And the legs, the tail feathers, and these little bits are all scraps of sock yarn. And when I went to the store to find sew on Google Eyes, I found these little sunglass buttons. So that's what these little sunglasses are. This was fun to knit. The pattern was also pretty well written. I enjoyed it. It went pretty quick. Everything is sewn on. So I sewed it on pretty firmly because my granddaughter claimed this, so I will be sewing these glasses on a lot sturdier. She is 3, so I think that I can safely tell her, do not eat these glasses. And I modified the pattern a bit. The pattern has little bloomers on top of the legs, which I didn't really like very much. So I just knit longer legs instead. So really like him. It's pretty cute. So I call him my chicken because he's chill. So again, Emily Ivy on Ravelry, and there's quite a lot on there. So if you like chickens, he's kind of cute, and he's pretty small. I think he's about 6 inches tall, so you can see compared to Rolly how tall he is. So I also design that I wanted to share with you, it's not brand new, but it's my most recent design. This is Auberge. It's a shawl. It's pretty big. I knit this while we were on a trip because I needed some car knitting. So I actually bought the yarn while we were on the trip as well. I had the design planned out and I had started with some different yarn, and I liked the yarn, I just didn't like it in this pattern. So we stopped in Kamloops and we went to a yarn shop called Electric Tree Yarns, and I bought some Malabrigo sock yarn. This color is number 46. It's called Rayon Vert or Vert. And I call it Auberge because, well, one, I love that song by Chris Rea, but we were on a trip, and Auberge is, means small inn or inn in French. And I kind of had this idea in my head that I'd like to make a series of shawls or accessories about traveling and with traveling names. So this is knit. You cast on the long edge, and then it has a pretty simple lace pattern. The lace pattern has some decreases in it, and then when you finish the lace pattern you change to a garter stitch, and then it's just short rows until you bind off. And this one is knit in fingering weight, and I used this is all I have left of 2 balls of sock yarn. This is about 8 grams. It can be knit out of any weight of yarn, and the pattern includes instructions for modifying it by adding repeats, and it gives you the math to calculate out the crescent shaping. So it's Auberge, it's on Ravelry, it's nice, interesting but not difficult, and it makes a really pretty, cozy shawl, kind of scarfy thing to wear. I like it anyway. So there we go. Anyway, so the pattern is written and charted. So I use 3mm needles, Haya interchangeables, and here my notes say US 4 as well. So, but I know the 3mm is right. The US 4 part may not be right. So anyway, here we go. So I have lots and lots of works in progress, but I'm not going to show you all of them. I'll just show you things that I've been knitting on this week. I always have socks in progress, and I am knitting some stripy socks. These are Groovy Socks by Carolyn Higwer. I wanted to knit some stripy socks that had a little bit of interest so they weren't really stripy. So it's a free pattern. I think the Ravelry link takes you to her blog. The pattern has a afterthought heel in it, which I'm going to do, and so far it's just a 2-row repeat. Like one pattern has the patterning, one row has patterning on it and one row is just a knit row. I'm using Lena Grossa Milan wheat. If I said that wrong, I'm sorry. Dessert colorway, 80% wool, 20% nylon, 420 meters in 100 grams. The yarn seems really nice. I've never used it before. It seems pretty hard wearing. It's not really soft, but it seems pretty sturdy. And the colors are very nice. Nice strong colors. This is just podcast knitting. I just knit when I'm watching podcasts on my socks, and I'm using I guess they're cubics, so Knitter's Pride or Knit Pro, depending where you live, and these are 2.5mm. I bought them at Olds last year for when I was there. So anyway, that's one project. And another project, I'm doing another knit along. This one is the Mama Vertebrae, which I'm doing with the Fat Squirrel Speaks group. I'm using Drops of Merino Extra Fine, which is okay. It's nice and fluffy. It's a superwash. My swatch came out a little bit like it grew. It's a little bit splitty, but I can deal with that. I have just separated after the sleeves, and I've just put in a little bit of a lace pattern. It's going pretty quick. I ended up, without giving all the pattern away, I ended up slowing down the increases on the sleeve, and then I cast on stitches under the arm. So I'll have to cast on the stitches for the sleeve as well. So I haven't decided if it's going to be long sleeve or short sleeves. I think it might be short sleeve so I can wear it over stuff, but I haven't decided yet. So I'm doing that. It's a knit along that I'm doing in the Fat Squirrel group, so and that's on Ravelry as well, and I'm enjoying it so far. Well, I can't imagine that I'm not going to enjoy it, but I am enjoying it. So I have a project page for that if you want any details about what I'm doing. That's fun. So, and then I have a design in progress that I can share with you. This one, also just share a little bit. This one I'm knitting out of Malabrigo Restita. I think that's how you say it. The colorway is number 31 Mostaza. I think this might be discontinued, this colorway. I love this colorway. It's kind of a early spring mossy green. So anyway, I love this color, and it is so soft. And then when you knit it, it is even softer. And when you swatch it, it's a single. So I think there might be some pilling. But I don't care. I love it anyway. So the first thing I did is I made a swatch. This swatch I started off swatching with 4.5mm needles, US 7, and I thought that the stitches were just a little bit too loose, and so I made a purl line, and I swatched with the size smaller needle, which I liked. So I started off with this swatch, and then I made a swatch with my pattern in it. So this swatch, it has some lace and some cables, and this is basically the center panel on the front of the sweater, and then this bit here, right in the middle, goes down the center of the sleeves. So I really liked the pattern in the yarn, and I just really like the way it felt. I like the drape of it, so I decided to go ahead with the pattern. And this is what I've got so far. So the pattern, I would say it's intermediate, sort of advanced intermediate, or a adventurous intermediate. You start with a provisional cast on at the shoulders, and you knit down the front and the back, and then your pickup for the sleeves, and then it's a simultaneous set in sleeve. So when you finally have everything all joined together, you're setting in the sleeves and you're knitting the front and the back and the sleeves, and you're doing the patterning and you're increasing the sleeves and the front and the back. Well, you're not increasing the front and the back, you're increasing the sleeves at the same time. So I'm really happy with how it's turning out. You see I've separated here for the sleeves, and I'm working on the body, and I'm doing the decreases from the bust down to the waist. And what I'm doing here, what all these strings are, is I'm alternating balls of yarn because these are dyed, and they're all the dye lots, all the skeins are a little bit different. So I'm alternating the balls of yarn so that I don't have big clumps of different dye lots or different skeins. Pretty happy with how it's turning out. So I will keep you posted on the progress and how the pattern is coming out and when it's going to be released. But I'm really enjoying knitting this. I love the feel of it. I love picking it up and knitting it. It's so yummy and cozy. So keep you posted on that. And let's get that out of the way. So before I go on to tell you about my new yarn, I really like to hear about what people do while they're knitting. And one of the other things that I like to do is read, and it's really hard. I know some people actually can read and knit at the same time, but I can't. Even after all these years, have to look at my knitting while I'm knitting. So I listen to audiobooks, and right now I'm listening to a Danish. It's not in Danish. It's been translated and is being read in English. I'm listening to Invisible Murder, and if I massacre this name, I apologize. Please correct me if you are Danish or if you understand Danish and you know how to say this. It's called Invisible Murder. It's written by Leen Kaberbol and Agnete Friis. It's the second in a series of the Nina Borg series. And the first book in the series was called The Boy in the Suitcase. And this one involves Roma gypsies in Denmark. Very interesting. I'm really enjoying it. So I'm about just a little bit over halfway through, and I definitely am enjoying it. I enjoy a lot of Scandinavian mystery novels, and I'm also reading a book right now. It's also a Danish book, which is a little bit of a coincidence. It's called The Purity of Vengeance. Purity of Vengeance. It's written by Jussi Adler Olsen, and it is in the Department Q series. It's the fourth one, and the first one is called The Keeper of Lost Causes. I would highly recommend this series. Very interesting, as if you like mysteries, and if you like any of the Swedish or Scandinavian type mysteries, you'll really enjoy these books. So anyway, just to let you know what kind of books I like and what I'm listening to and what I'm reading, then those are them. And last thing is I have acquired some new yarn, and I'll just share that with you. So I have some more sock yarn. I have a very large stash of sock yarn, and this is the latest edition. This is Opal Sweet and Spicy 2. It actually says Sweet 2 Spicy 2, but I'm just going to call it Sweet and Spicy 2. This is the Zuckerstrudel colorway. I really like it, and the picture is pretty. kind of got blues and a little bit of purple and yellow. It kind of looks, I don't know, kind of fresh and spring-like. It'll make some pretty socks. Nice and smooshy. Opal is always really nice sock yarn, so I like it. So I actually have, like I said, a large stash of sock yarn. I love knitting socks, so yum. I bought this, my friend has a little yarn shop in her house. She's open 2 days a week, and that's where I got that. So, also got this yarn from her. She dyed it, and her shop yarn is called Wild Woolly's Studio. So this is her own hand dyed. Color is clover, and it's 100% merino superwash. And I bought this to make another toy. My granddaughter told me that her mommy needs a mingo. So I will be making a flamingo by, I think it's Susan B. Anderson. I will put it in the show notes, but yes, it is. So it's Flamingo by Susan B. Anderson. And here's a picture of it. I don't know if you can see that with the glare, but anyway, I'll put it in the show notes. It's I think it's a free pattern, and I thought this would be perfect. So I'm gonna probably hold it double and make a bigger one. So a flamingo for my daughter, although I have a slight suspicion that my granddaughter will be the recipient or the eventual recipient of this. So anyway, a mingo for her mommy. And the very last thing is more Malabrigo. So Malabrigo actually sent me this yarn because I pitched a pattern idea, which they liked enough to provide me the yarn. So this is their worsted. This is cocoa, and this is vermilion. Vermilion. It's not vermilion. So this is a really deep coral, almost a red, and this is a deep, like a dark chocolatey cocoa. So yesterday I made a swatch. So this is all I've got so far, is a swatch. So I will be showing you more as I progress. So now I've got the swatch, I'll be able to do the calculations, and as soon as I get the other one off my needles, I'll be starting this one. So this one's going to be a cardigan. So I love it. Nice and yummy. So anyway, thank you for visiting me this week. Next week I have to work on the weekend, so I will be recording in 2 weeks. Bye!